The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. That's nice. Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Thank you, D-Roy. Thank you. No, only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years.
Please state your name.
Jeff Coleman, Missouri delegate, first time, long time, with a request for information.
Thank you.
Did this body grab a former president by the pussy last night?
Sit down. It's completely out of order. No.
If you voted for a libertarian, you should fucking die. Like, what do they even stand for? Nothing. Nobody cares. They've been around long enough that they should be something or not be something. So they're just worthless people. Libertarians.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to interrupt your libertarian jazz rant, but I do think it's also depressing that we only have two fucking political parties. And it's
I like it now. I like it. I'm sold on it. Because it's like the third party always sucks, and like whatever. I just think we need better candidates. You know, I mean, like the last couple of years we've had good. Obama was good. Trump was great. So it's like and the libertarian, who was that? Who ran for? How come Michael Malice didn't get picked? Like, how do they even pick some lady? Joe something. I was like, I never heard of her. And then she's getting all these votes in Florida. I was like, why would you throw your vote away? Why go through the trouble of voting and then be like, I'm a libertarian? So just kill yourselves. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, Jorgensen.
Joe Jorgensen. She sounds like she used to play second base for the Mets.
Hey. It's the 17th episode of the 38th Parallel. I am the Libertarian. I hope you enjoyed that little intro. So the Libertarian Party and libertarianism in general is dead. I'm sorry to say for all the libertarians who watch and listen to the show, but it's true. Libertarianism is at the most dead, or at the least dying. And the person that will agree with me, at least I'm pretty sure 100%, he is the host of It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. It's Mosley, Allen. How are you doing, Alan?
49ers signed wide receiver Juwan Jennings to a 2-year contract to keep him with the 49ers through the 2025 season. Contract's worth up to $15.4 million.
Yeah. There you go. That's what we need. I mean, he was a Super Bowl MVP before something else happened.
If they had won the Super Bowl and they didn't give him the MVP because he's like not a star, that'd have been a sham. I actually would want them to have their Super Bowl revoked.
Come on. How dare you?
He was clearly the only one on the field that was like, guys, we could still win. Like, come on,
Yeah.
It's just sulking on the sideline.
Now I'm getting flashbacks from that game. Thanks a lot.
That one or the last one they lost? Which one?
Well, this one's more recent, so I'm having recency bias, and I'm thinking about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My bad. I'm sorry.
It's okay. But I'm glad that they signed him. He was, he deserves it. He has definitely improved from when he first played to where he is now. I mean, way better than when he started. So, yeah, congratulations, JJ, or as I say, third and Juwan. I hope to keep him on for longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's been some rumblings that because of that signing, okay, well, what are you going to do with Debo? What are you going to do with Brandon? I was about to say Brandon Allen. Ugh. Brandon Ayuk. I'm starting to think that Brandon Ayuk's starting to, like, his price range is starting to get way, like, what are the 49ers doing? They're retarded. Hey, let's keep on waiting for the next wide receiver to get signed, so that will reset the market once again. Like, blah blah blah. Let's just keep waiting. We'll wait till like literally the day before the season starts to sign him. He'll be getting like a $3 billion contract or whatever, and then we'll trade Debo Samuel after June 1st. So there you go.
Well, I mean, keep in mind they've still got like a few years on Brock Purdy's rookie 7th round contract.
Yeah.
So like they're paying him gas money to go to the games. So they've
Right.
got money. They should be signing people because in another 3 years, then there's going to be everything, all a bunch of contracts up and the quarterback up and the whole thing. So I don't want to hear any team that's like, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do with all these free agents. And while they're paying like a Pro Bowler $75
Right.
to play. I don't want, because that's where the Cowboys were back in the day. Is that so? First of all, they would have won the Super Bowl if they just put Romo back in over Dak, but then they decided to start Dak from there on out, and then they had Dak on a 5-year rookie contract where they were paying him in, like Popeye's chicken, and then those 5 years were up and the team was no better off than they were before. And it's like, well, what did you do with all that money and all that salary cap that you weren't spending on the quarterback? Like where are the players? I'm looking around. Where's the roster? I don't understand. Anyway,
actually, I have Jerry Jones here. If you want to ask him, Jerry Jones.
He'll be dead real soon. So,
man, I wonder who's going to take
I think
over.
adrenochrome can only take you so far.
Who's going to take over the Cowboys?
Stephen Jones, and it'll be just as bad with a different name and slightly less racism, but only.
That's why Dak's the quarterback. So, see, I'm not a racist. The black guy's the quarterback. See, I got Trey Lance now. He's the backup. There you go.
Yeah, Trey Lance will never play though. I don't know why he's even in the building. He'll never play. No. I think they got him because they're hoping to like rehabilitate him and then turn around and put him back on the market, trade him again. I don't know. Anyway, but none of those people are libertarians. You'll come to recognize.
Hey, you never know. There's millions of libertarians. They don't even know the libertarian yet, Alan. So
if they knew what about libertarianism, then they would be like, oh my God, it's literally me.
Yeah. Speaking of free agents.
Yeah. Speaking of free agents, who? Dave Smith, since he's out,
right?
I just want to say, because this whole last week, I already did my bit where I laughed and ridiculed and mocked these people. I did a whole episode about it. My recap was absolute fire, if I do say so myself. That might be the best bit we've ever done on the show, was the LP convention recap. And then like 45 minutes with a guest talking about just the whole thing, the background, the party, the caucus, the people who did and didn't participate, the results. But we had some jokes and shared some laughs and all that. But in all seriousness, I remember, because I was there all the way back in, what year was that? That was like 2018 or 2019. I was down in New Orleans for the like inaugural like Mises Caucus bash or whatever they were calling it. So they were starting this thing. So I remember like the initial conversations, and I had met this Michael Heiss character, and then they had this get together. It was like a competing convention thing. Like the LP was having its convention in New Orleans, and then the Mises Caucus had its own thing at a different site down there. And I went to that, and all the usual faces were there, and they had really gone out to bring in as many like right of center, hardcore Austrian type dignitaries had come to this event, because they were trying to signal like, oh, look, we're like the Mises Institute, hence the caucus's name, Ron Paul Psi wing of the party. And they had a taped message from Ron Paul, and they had Tom Woods was like the keynote, and they had everybody, right? They had Jeff Dice and Eric July came and did some entertainment, and they had Dave Smith was actually supposed to be there, and then he bailed, which is kind of a funny precursor to this whole thing. Dave Smith was supposed to be there, and then something happened and he couldn't come. I don't think he bailed, but he was supposed to be there, then he wasn't. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Scott Horton was there, and like he had truck problems. He was driving, and his truck broke down, and some people went and got him, and it was like this whole wholesome thing, getting the team
This is
together.
yeah, this sounds familiar. But yeah, I remember the truck thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I already had become acquainted with a number of those people before that, but it hadn't been long. Like I started the Gold Standard in September of 2017. So it had only been like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And I had just become acquainted with some of those folks. And they had some people there that are like no longer like in the in crowd. Like Walter Block was there, which now he's like an ethno state Zionist fascist, so you know, whatever. But they had all the usual suspects, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And it was fine, and they had their little talks and whatever. It was okay. I had more fun just walking around the town and hanging out with folks than I did at the event. You know, that's and that's something that's also something to keep in mind in the back of your head, is that it's the takeaway here is building the relationships and sharing the camaraderie. I didn't give a flying fuck about the politics going on.
And I think a lot of people that go to those things are like that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I have been a really hardline anti-LP, anti whatever your caucus is, anti whoever your candidate is from day one.
Yeah.
But I do know a lot of those people individually that I'm on good terms with. But I don't think I'm the only one. I think that there may not have been as many that were quite as outspoken about it as I was from day one. But I think there were a lot of people there who were just kind of like, I wish everyone the best, and I'm here to hang out with my buds, and that's, I'm just going to let bygones be bygones, sort of thing.
Right.
But I remember then thinking they invited a lot of really impressive people. But the people who are like on the ground trying to get this thing up and running, like they're just, it's not that they're not hardworking, but they're really just networkers. They're not people with any particular vision. I don't think that they're really willing to do what it takes to have a long-term successful movement. I don't think they had a realistic appraisal of the situation. I think in their minds, their attitude was, we gotta get all of our people together. We gotta round them up, because you know how it's the whole herding cats thing, right? And we gotta get rid of all the commies and the lefties in the party, because and back then, I'm so glad this popped into my head. I'm sorry, I'm starting your show with my 45-minute rant, and then I'm just gonna leave, and I'll just let you finish the show. But so I remember at the time them saying, because people like me were like, well, what's the goal here? Like, if I were to say, I don't really know about all this, it just seems like a waste of time and money. What are you hoping to accomplish? Because you clearly aren't going to win elections, and whatever. So what do you hope for? And I remember being told, and I'm not going to say who he is, but someone who I'm good friends with and who is a well-known character in Liberty circles and out for that matter, had said to me that, really, I feel like the goal, what they're going for is if the party, and this is a big if, by the way, but this were their words, not mine. If the party is what the general public thinks libertarians are, and if the party is what the general public thinks libertarianism is whatever their policies are, that's what libertarianism is, then I guess I just would prefer to have the party be more in line with us, with me, and what I believe libertarianism is. And because I don't even use the word believe, I'm just saying this is what libertarianism is, and you guys are incorrect objectively. And so we want to take the party over. And if we do nothing else, it's going to be, and this was back, by the way, this was before all the cringe people started calling everything based. People who, I just block everyone who says that, because they're all a bunch of faggots. But this was back before people, that was a popular colloquialism. So it was like, we just want to take over the identity, so that, even if we're only going to get 1 to 3%, at least we can say that, look, when different organizations cite us saying that this is what libertarians think, they at least have the right story. That was it. Like, that's what you're trying to accomplish. That's not a lot to accomplish, by the way. It's not like you're changing the world when you do that. And even then I was like, so for one, in the same, so I have two problems with that. The first one is that sounds like a vanity project. Like, you're not actually like, if you guys raise $1 million to do this, that's $1 million wasted dollars because it's a vanity project. Who cares? You didn't actually accomplish anything. There's no net good for society. You can just rest easy at night knowing that if someone goes to lp.org, it's going to say libertarianism on it. Like, that's basically all you've accomplished. I feel like you should just go give that money to just some local charity, and you have done more net good for society than you did taking the website admin password back. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Okay, all right,
You took a code back.
And like, remember the drama with getting the social media accounts and all that? Remember?
Yeah. Sadly, I know all about that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So first problem seems like a vanity project. My second issue, and this was an issue I raised in the room in a round table, like it'll impromptu little hangout with some way more important people than me, as I had said, well, if your basis for this movement is the LP doesn't represent libertarianism and I want it to, I was like, but specifically, you're afraid that the general public is turned off, not just not libertarians, but they're actively repulsed by libertarians because in their mind, what libertarians are is the Libertarian Party, and you don't like that, and so you want to change it. And I was like, but doesn't that sound an awful lot like how the GOP isn't conservative? They're all just a bunch of leftists, and like all the mainstream like Washington DC Republicans are all just neocons, which are leftists. And so aren't there a whole lot of conservatives in America who say that, well, you know, there may be some individual Republicans that represent conservative values, but on the whole, the party often or always doesn't represent me / doesn't represent conservatism. And I'm not going to get into the whole big long argument of, well, they vote for Republicans anyway because lesser of two evils. We're not going to get into all that. It's just to say, does that not sound like the same thing? Like, you as a libertarian are upset that the LP doesn't represent you because you think that what they trot out as libertarianism isn't libertarianism. But the GOP, which is a way bigger and more powerful party, they trot out conservatism, but it's not real conservatism. And a lot of conservatives are like, ugh, you know, this isn't, like, you guys just are 10-year-old progressives. And so the point being is that your phenomenon that you're talking about, A, doesn't seem to be unique to me, and B, the general public still equates conservatism and right wing with GOP, even though it's not quote unquote real conservatism. They still equate it with that. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that, like, the conservative movement, such as it is, obviously has its own issues. But it's just, I see a lot of parallels there. And I'm not saying that libertarianism and conservatism are the same thing. They're not. But I'm saying I see a lot of parallels there. Now, I know we could go find some left-wingers right now that would say that I'm a, a Bill Clinton liberal, back when there were Democratic presidents who were anti-gay marriage and, pro-family and stuff like that. And there's Democrats not that long ago that were pro-gun. And that they would say that, well, whoa. I'm not about all this progressivism, chopping the kids' dicks off stuff. My family always voted Democrat. I grew up voting Democrat, but we still were pro-2A, pro-family, pro-religion, whatever. So the Democratic Party doesn't represent liberals. It's it's been taken over by progressives. Like, so the point being is that phenomenon is everywhere. Mm-hmm. There's always fights over the identity of all the parties. And yet the GOP and DNC somehow just managed to keep soldiering on despite this identity crisis. And the world just keeps on spinning. And I feel like, so you guys are not really dealing with anything uniquely damaging. On top of the fact that it's like, on one side of the token, you're saying, well, I hate CNN and I don't care what they think about us. And on the other side, you're saying, well, CNN is sorting the LP.org, and that's not right. It's like, well, I thought you said you didn't give a shit. And I also thought you understood you weren't going to win any elections anyway. So again, it's like, I don't really 100% understand. Like, let's just say hypothetically you win and you get all your people in, and this identity change is done for the better. It's like, okay, then what are you going to do? Are you going to do as the major parties do, which is just continue to raise money and continue to tilt against the windmills? Like, you think of, like, again, like, think of the GOP and the abortion topic. The worst thing that could happen to the GOP fundraisers is them actually overturning Roe v. Wade, because they spent decades just raising money to fight Roe v. Wade with no actual intent to ever actually overturn it. It was better to fundraise against it than it was to actually solve the problem. And again, that's not a unique political phenomenon either. Well, now, again, in a hypothetical world where you don't have a fucking child sexual predator as your presidential nominee, and, you know, whatever, Dave Smith doesn't quit, and the LP is a right-wing Austrian school organization, even in a scenario where that happens, you also are going to have to just keep doing it. You're going to have to just keep raising money and keep working and keep getting out the vote. Not the vote for actual candidates in political positions, by the way. I mean, for the party. You're winning elections for the party. You're not actually winning elections for the country or states. You're winning elections for the party. So your party politics will just go on forever, because, of course, if you don't, then the left-wingers will just come right back in. So it seems like you're really just signing up for a forever war, so to speak, in your own little political universe. And all of that time and all of that money could have gone to any number of other things. What if you wanted to keep it in politics, you could have supported candidates. You know, we love to cite Thomas Massey because he's so good. He's the best congressman in the House. But find more Thomas Masseys who are going to run as Republicans in districts where, if they can get in, they're probably going to have a rock solid base, and their reelection campaigns are going to be smooth as butter. Find those people. If you don't already have them, find them, and then use that money you're raising to get the LP website and give it to him so that you get him elected. If they had even elected one more Thomas Massey, if there was some dude in the 3rd congressional district of fucking Idaho that was exactly like Thomas Massey, and the Mises Caucus gave every cent they had to him and he won, they just did a measurable, like, actual verifiable good for the future. Now, it's going to take more than that, but I'm just saying, even if that's all they did, you can actually point to something and say, oh, look at this thing we accomplished. And fighting over the party, every single cent was wasted, both in the metaphorical sense. It was wasted because winning over the party achieves nothing, and also in the real sense because they can't even nominate a candidate. So it was a waste. That's why they've been defeated. The Mises Caucus is dead. They're going to continue on, but it's dead. It doesn't matter. In another election cycle where they don't even do as well as this, they'll just basically they will be seen as the outsiders that need to be run out of the party, because a great amount of people in the capital L libertarian world are leftists who believe in chemical castration, and they clearly have enough political will to root you out, not the other way around. So you can spend all your time and money fighting with them, or you can go somewhere else where those people specifically are completely unwelcome. And you can put all your time and energy into that area of the world. Try to build that up. Look, the GOP sucks. The national GOP especially. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And they'd run terrible candidates. So, of course, terrible. But I refuse to believe, again, I don't know how much money they've raised. It's one of those deals where they have a lot more money that can be seen in volunteer man hours and in boots on the ground than you can actually see in dollars and cents. But whatever it is they've raised, and however many volunteers they had on the ground, and however many people they've ever gotten to phone bank or whatever, they could have put it towards finding more Thomas Masseys all around the country and doing everything they could to get those people elected. And it would have been an objectively better move. In fact, I can give you a couple of examples of where they could have done it and a place where they didn't. One is, so a lot of people are talking about, you know, Kane,
Yeah.
the mayor here in Knox County.
Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah, Glenn Jacobs, which keep in mind, he's not the mayor of Knoxville. People don't know he's the mayor of Knox County.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people saying that he might be priming himself to run for governor of Tennessee, and he might win. I mean, he'd have a decent shot. Tennessee still elects Republican governors. He would be a better governor than Bill Lee. So if he primes to run with Bill Lee heading out, Kane could win. Not just based entirely on his name recognition, but also on the fact that he's been a good governor in Knox County. Do we agree on everything? Absolutely not. Does he do a lot of social media virtue signaling to troops and cops and all that horse shit? Of course he does. He's a Republican. He's got to have Republican donors and run as a Republican candidate. But his actual record as the county mayor is good. That's just verifiable. So if he's going to run for like governor of Tennessee and there's any chance in the world he couldn't win, that's where they could be putting resources to get him in. And if there was a libertarian candidate that wanted to run, they should destroy them. Absolutely destroy them.
It was like that.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but it was like that guy in Florida. Wasn't he running against DeSantis? And he's like, oh, yeah, you should vote for me, Libertarians. Like, no, fuck you. This is during COVID. We're not going to fucking vote for you. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. And of course, you know, now, obviously, DeSantis won the second time easily. But the first time, that was like a 0.1% margin. There would have never been a DeSantis and during COVID. Florida would have just been California, New York. That's how close it could have been. Now, Glenn Jacobs did great in Knoxville because Knox County controlled the health department, and he threw his weight around as much as he could to get things their way, because leftists in Knoxville didn't want things that way, but right wingers the county over did want things a certain way. And that's a common story that happens in a lot of places. So imagine the kind of street cred that a libertarian organization, and I don't mean the Libertarian Party, because fuck the Libertarian Party, but a libertarian organization like a Mises Caucus or whatever. Imagine what they could do if they could point to a state and say, hey, we actually, like, you know, Glenn Jacobs, he's going to run as a Republican. But if it's 46% between him and the Democratic candidate, you know, with, you know, whatever, 3% independent and whatever undecided, and they go in there and throw everything they have into it, and he wins by a couple of percent, you could actually say, hey guys, you helped him.
Difference.
You made a difference.
Yeah.
You made a difference. How seldom do they get to say that? You made a difference right there for a guy who is objectively better than the alternative.
So I don't know. Sorry to interrupt again, but I don't know if this is a name you're going to mention. But it's sort of similar to when Dave Smith supported Blake Masters. And there was a lot of libertarians who were like, why are you supporting an R? Why? What are you doing? Like, aren't you part of the Libertarian Party or supporting a Republican? He's probably thinking Dave's like, well, he has the best shot of winning. There's no reason for me to support a libertarian when I feel like the Republican is the better candidate in this particular race. And like you're saying with Glenn Jacobs, why would you vote for a libertarian when Glenn Jacobs is already the guy?
It's important to distinguish for the people having that little ideological fight. It's important to distinguish. I'm not supporting Republicans. I'm supporting Blake Masters.
Right.
There's a difference. I'm not supporting the Republican Party of Tennessee. I'm supporting Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah.
If the Republican Party of Tennessee nominated somebody else, fuck them.
It's not like we're going to be supporting Mitt Romney.
No, I'm supporting Glenn Jacobs.
Right.
So the other example I was going to give you to finish this whole big, long opening rant is, so that's a situation where that's something they could absolutely do to make a difference. I'll give you another example of something they could have done and didn't. Defend the guard. So at the LP convention a weekend ago, you had candidates on stage during their debates not endorsing Defend the Guard. Defend the Guard is one of those things where this is just a rock solid policy position. This is a rock solid platform to build off of. It started grassroots. The people like Diego and Dan. Shit, I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. But all the defend the guard people, Hunter Dorenzis, who's been on my show, those people brought that up literally from the concept stage up. And they've got it to where it's being introduced in dozens of states, actually passing some houses and senates, actually hitting the debate floor, and actually having, like, you know, major party seat holding people throwing their weight behind it. That's a genuine, real, measurable good that there's no argument against it. You have to be a sick lizard person to be against Defend the Guard. There's no argument against it. Everyone should be for it. And it's something that actually could work. So if the Mises Caucus had the power or the money to get even 100 people to phone bake for a day, they should be phone baking whenever it's up in a state or whatever for fucking Defend the Guard. And they won't do it. I know they haven't, because I've actually had people from the official Defend the Guard, when they're out there saying, you know, we're in this state, here's our contact, get in touch with us so that you can phone bank. We want to register that who we have phone banking. So you get in touch with us so we know you're doing it. We can give you the contact information for who we believe are the target representatives, the undecideds. We're going to give you you contact us. We're going to take your information. We're going to give you the undecideds, the votes we need, and their contact info. And we're going to give you some good talking points, and we're going to set you loose. And I've seen them say, hey guys, like, one of the biggest votes we've ever had for Defend the Guard was whatever this weekend. And after getting all the influencers, all the fucking grifters with their 5 and 6 digit followings on Twitter to just do nothing else but just click, retweet. That's about all they were able to do. Retweet. And it got all this reach. You know how many people they had phone bank? It was like 6. So fuck them. They're not actually doing things that are measurable goods other than a vanity project. So they're the ones to get to write down on the World Wide Web, this is what libertarianism means. Out of the way, Wikipedia. We get to decide. No. And so it's over. It's dead. It's done. Also, boy, I just love being right all the time. I got to go find it. You can find a recording of me like 5 years ago saying Dave Smith is going to nope out of all this just as soon as it's run its course from him. Maybe he gives it one run. Maybe he doesn't, which he never did. He didn't run the first go round. They ran Jacob Shitburger. And then the second go round, he backed out on him.
Who was worse, Hornberger or Rechtenwald? Flip a coin.
Now that right there is a good poll.
Yeah,
that's a good poll right there.
Right.
Which of these was the worst candidate?
All right,
Jacob Hornberger, Michael Rechtenwald. Yeah, but you have to put the year, so you'd have to put like Jacob Hornberger 2020, Michael Rechtenwald 2024. That's a good poll right there.
I'm right now,
and of course they're going to be pissed at you if you do that. I can't for the life of me figure out why the LP National hasn't retweeted my recap yet. But anyway, neither has Dave Smith. Isn't that something? Okay. But it was so clear he was going to nope out. Either A, because he came to his senses in a positive way, that he's like, this isn't a valuable use of my time and resources, or it would be in a negative way. It would be we're not winning, we've met a little resistance, so I'm going to take my ball and go home. I'm not sure which of those more accurately describes. Maybe it's a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. He never actually ran for anything, so I don't think he was really in for it other than a lot of his own personal appearances.
I would say, and I didn't listen to the whole episode, so grant me that. But I did listen to his recap of the whole convention for during his Parlor Problem episode. And he did say that he was going to take a step back from everything. He was still going to be a card-carrying member of the Libertarian Party, so he's still going to be that aspect, still be a part of the party or whatever. And yeah, he did basically say, it was my fault, and you should place all the blame on me for all the failings that happened for the Mises Caucus and whoever else was supporting him. And so I guess in that regard, you can, I guess, give him the nice pat on the shoulder. Hey, it's fine. It's okay. You're placing the blame on yourself, and you're being a man about it. So there is that. And then he also said something like he was gonna reassess everything. How am I gonna kind of better, I guess, I don't know, use his time, like you were saying, use his time and money.
So
is he yeah.
So let me translate for you all those things that you just said, paraphrasing him.
Yeah.
It's not you, it's me. We just need some space. Which means he's gone.
He's doing
which
the George Costanza.
Which means it's y'all and I'm out forever. That's what, for the young fellas listening, if she ever says it's not you, it's me, and I just need some space, your relationship's over, and she doesn't think you're good enough, just in case you were wondering.
Hey, maybe in 2028 he'll surprise everyone and be like, hey, guess what, guys?
No, in 2028 there will be no Dave Smith. No, oh my God, that's some hardcore copium right there.
Can you imagine? That'd be interesting.
I couldn't imagine if because for one, because here's the funny thing too, is like, hell, I could fucking run for Libertarian Party nomination for president in 2028.
Yeah, might as well. Go ahead, do it.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't actually want to be in politics. So if you wanted to be in politics, like you want to be in politics, then you'd run as a Republican or a Democrat, but
yeah,
a Republican. But if you don't actually want to be in politics, but you do want street cred, notoriety, raise a little money, get some speaking engagements, rub some elbows, then you would run for the Libertarian Party, because there's no risk of you ever actually having to have a job in politics, because you're not going to win. It doesn't matter if you get nominated.
Well, I mean, unless you ran for sheriff or some kind of local like school.
Yeah, we're not talking about any of that. We're talking about Libertarian Party nomination.
But like you're saying, if you actually wanted to do something within that party, the only way you're going to win anything is if you run for like county assessor or something like that.
Yeah, but those people would be dumb to run. There is no party. So there's no party in those places. And the party won't help you. That's one of the biggest issues with the party. Is like, if you actually said, I believe in this organization, so I'm going to be a member and I'm going to pay my dues. And hey, you guys, I'm going to give you a heads up. I'm going to run for county commission in my town. The LP's not going to fucking help you. They can't help you. Number one, it's not even a matter of if they can't. They physically can't help you. But even if they could, they won't. They're too busy fighting over who has the password to Twitter. They can't help you. So it only stands to hurt you. You could just run as an independent. You're way more successful just running as an independent all the way down.
Yeah, Arcade Genius going to probably do that, and he'll get more votes than if he ran as an L.
Well, everyone gets more votes than running as an L. So you can run as an independent at the local level, and not being a Democrat or Republican won't kill you, especially in an area where, like, if you're in a small red area and there's 4 people running and they're all Republicans, sometimes there'll be somebody run as an independent because they're specifically trying to distance themselves from like the local GOP or the old money or whatever. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they win. Or you just run as a Republican. So, but if you actually did want to run as a capital L Libertarian and that's your party affiliation, they won't help you. They can't help you. So it doesn't serve you in any meaningful sense. So you would be better off just leaving it off and being independent, or just signing up to be the Republican candidate. But in either event, we're not talking about that. We're talking about running for Libertarian Party president, national level stuff.
Yeah.
So since you know that there's no chance you'll actually get elected, you're really just running. You're just going through the motions of having a campaign and you can reap the rewards of building a little bit of a following, getting
So-
to be on TV a few times, maybe whatever. Like
So
Joe
it'd be like-
Jorgensen. Joe
Yeah.
Jorgensen had a handful of TV appearances. It wasn't a lot, but she had a few, and it's like nobody in their right mind would ever have this fucking woman on TV.
Yeah,
She's
she went on
only
Dave
there-
Rubin's. Yeah, she went on Dave Rubin's show, freaking embarrassed herself. Dave
She
Rubin.
did embarrass her. She didn't embarrass herself. That's not TV.
Yeah, but you know what I
but-
mean.
Yeah, but so these people like can get on TV a handful of times. It's the perpetual campaigners. So I don't think Dave Smith wants to be a perpetual campaigner, because it's just, why waste that many years of your life doing this horse shit when you can just be doing anything else, number one. But number two, the people who are running, again, this is just something for everyone to remember in the back of their head. Someone who actually wants to be in politics is not going to run for a libertarian seat because they want to win, because they want to be in politics. But if they're a bit more nefarious, if they just want to campaign and be a nominee so that they can reap the rewards of having a bigger platform, getting some more followers on Twitter, getting to have some speaking engagements, getting to get some press, get on TV maybe once or twice, have a little money thrown behind you that you then hopefully can then parlay. It's kind of like when congressmen leave office. They want to take all the wheeling and dealing they did in Congress to, when they exit Congress, they can move into something else. So, like some faggot like Chase Oliver, who has nothing going for him, can win the nomination, run for president. Again, he doesn't have to he doesn't have to fear having a life in politics, because he won't win.
Yeah.
But he can take all the press he gets, for better or ill, and at the end of this whole little stretch run, he can even come out, if he really wants to piss people off, he can just come out and say, well, we can't have a convicted felon as president, so I'm going to do everything in my power to stop Trump, even if that means I have to endorse Joe Biden. Could you imagine? Chase Oliver could do that. And if he does do that, there will be some landing places for him where he can benefit in some ways. Maybe he raises a little bit of money. Maybe, like I said, maybe he gets a little bit of clout with communities that you and I wouldn't be interested in being a part of.
Well, Chase Oliver, at least his Twitter account, I don't know if it's him now that he's the nominee or whatever. He did tweet something about the Trump verdict, and we can talk about that later, but he did tweet something about that. But I was going to talk about, because you're mentioning the money in the Libertarian Party and all that. The fact that, and this whole ties with the Trump verdict thing, Donald Trump has raised, or people have donated to him, upwards of like $50 million. And how much did it take? How much was the Libertarian Party? Because they were just saying, hey, if you top five, well, I guess it ended up being a top six, because people started complaining, what about this guy? We should have him in. I think the most someone got was like maybe $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Compare that, 20,000 to 50 million in one day. Like that right there, that right there should show you that the Libertarian Party is a joke. Nobody gives $20,000 as compared to 50 million. Go fuck yourself. Like, seriously, how much is $20,000 going to do for a fucking politician? That's like chump change. Oh, thanks for the $20,000. I'll go. I don't know, buy some sofas or something. $50 million is like that's pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if Elon Musk bought the Libertarian Party? He was fuck yeah, $5 billion. I'm buying the whole party. Screw it. Angela McCardle, everyone else in LNC, call it Karen Harlos. Get the fuck out. I'm Elon Musk.
So first of all, you do have a board of a direct executive board, so you can't buy a party.
Yeah, but could you imagine if he did that? It'd be kind of funny, right?
Now he could
Like
gather
$5 billion,
candidates that would run the board, and like he could run himself for chair, and he could gather candidates that would support him unconditionally, and then he could fund their campaigns out the wazoo. He could do that. And that would effectively be doing the same thing. I will say this, like, look, if I got nominated as the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, I would just be streaming It's Too Late on their Twitter. That's all I would do.
Hey,
I would just be streaming our It's Too Late on @LP National. It'd be dope. And it would be the exact same shit. It would be shitting on them, shitting on shitting on other people, but I shit on lots of people. It would just be fun.
And talking about just the complete like delusion of the libertarians. I think it was the Classical Liberal Caucus, of their Twitter account saying, "Oh, here, welcome." I don't know exactly what it was, but it was the gist of it was the tweet basically was saying, "Here's your next president and vice president of the United States, Chase Oliver, Mike Termat." Like, how fucking delusional are you saying that because you truly believe these two could actually win the election? Are you really saying that, or are you just saying that because you're just fucking idiots and retarded? I don't even know.
You might remember me saying this. I don't know if we talked about it on here or not, but you might remember me saying this before elsewhere if we didn't talk about it here. In that, if you have some random, say, like war veteran who has had a traumatic experience and has had a, come to Jesus moment, and they've decided, what I had committed my life to was wrong and evil, and I want to make amends for it. So I'm going to be an anti-war activist. And you can say, well, that's good. That's good that they are making that shift and trying to make something positive out of a negative. But my position has always been, while that's all well and good, I still don't actually want them being serious representatives of us or having any positions of authority, because I would still rather just have someone that didn't go fucking kill brown kids to begin with. Like, if I have to choose between someone who was never a war criminal and a war criminal who's really sad, I'll pick the one who was just never a war criminal. So anyway, so with that said, not only did they pick Mr. Captain Chemical Castration as their nominee, but his running mate is a fucking cop.
Okay, that was another thing too. Speaking of him, Dave Smith mentioned him, kind of talking about how when it ended up being Mike Dermatt, Chase Oliver, and Michael Rectenwald was like the top three, and then Mike Dermatt left. There was some, and this is just Dave, so take that however. But he was saying that apparently there was some deal that Mike Dermatt would put all his marbles in the Rectenwald basket, or all his eggs. I don't know what the saying is. I'm stupid. All the eggs in the Rectenwald basket. But apparently he did a 180 and made a deal with Chase Oliver. So there was some dirty politics. You know how politics is dirty, right? That's how the whole thing goes. And then when libertarians figure that out, they're like, "Oh man, I was trying to be clean. I was trying to be nice." And another thing too, that while he's talking about this, and I'm just kind of thinking about my head, I don't know what happened with Joshua Smith and Michael Heiss. I don't know what happened with their relationship, because apparently they used to be friendly, and now they freaking hate each other. Like, they probably would like stab each other if they had a chance.
Well, that's really bad for Michael Heiss, because Josh Smith isn't a manlet like he is. Boy, that's why
physical appearances aside.
Boy, that's why Sam Colt made him equal. But so I will say, which by the way,
what I was going to say was that so if Smith gets out, hey, I know you and I have had our differences and disagreements, and I know we slung some mud at each other, but would you, maybe let your voters know, hey, can you put it in the Rectenwald? Because we don't want Oliver, we don't want Mike Dermatt or whoever. Can you put it in Rectenwald? I don't know if Joshua Smith would agree to that, but at least try. But apparently there was no, because there was, I think Michael Heiss was tweeting something. I saw it where someone was saying, "Oh, you should have Plan B." He's like, who would have been the Plan B? It's like, well, Joshua Smith's more aligned with your guy than freaking all the other people. But no, I have a personal grudge against that guy. Screw Joshua Smith, blah, 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 blah. It's like, and I'm okay, great. He only had 80 votes or whatever. Okay, fine. But it wasn't like a huge margin that Mark Rectenwald lost. So maybe that 2% would have helped him. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, if you're really trying to have your guy win, no, it's Rectenwald and that's it. I'm not even going to try and have a plan B. Because to me, and maybe again, I'm not in, so maybe I'm not in the party. I wasn't there at the convention, so I don't know. But wouldn't you have a plan B? Mike Dermatt was going to be your plan B. Mike Dermatt, really, that guy. I don't know. I don't know.
So everyone who because at the end of the day, it's like the postmortem, not for me. The postmortem for me is ha ha ha, get fucked, all of you. But the postmortem for them should be, it's like, okay, well, what could we have done differently, and how can we learn from this experience? So for one, a lot of people are saying, as you had pointed out, that Mike Dermatt went all over the country saying that he supported the Mises Caucus, and had apparently made deals behind the scenes saying that if he were to be eliminated, he would support Rechtenwald. And then he didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a fucking cop. Everyone in the party on both sides of the aisle should have run him out the door the moment he said, "Hey guys, I want to run." They should have just told him, "Fuck off, you don't get to."
Yeah, but he's for police reform or whatever. So that's good. That's fine. Yeah, have him in. Cool.
Doesn't matter. Everyone should have just told him, "You don't get to run. Fuck off. Go call a lawyer. Kill yourself."
That's okay. That's another thing too that the Mises Caucus should have, if they were real.
Now I am curious, by the way, if Mike Dermatt had like really taken off and Rechtenwald had lost support because apparently taking edibles and then embarrassing yourself on CNN is really a bad idea.
Yeah.
Was the deal a quid pro quo? If the situation had been reversed, would Rechtenwald drop out and endorse Mike Dermatt? Because I've only heard the story of, well, you know, Mike, when you eventually lose because you're a fucking faggot cop, then you should endorse Rechtenwald because he's a Mises Caucus, and you said you support Mises Caucus. First of all, the Mises Caucus is mad that Joshua Smith is out there running he's running his race, but not as an official extension of them. Like they don't endorse Josh, but Josh runs anyway and is trying to, let's be honest, he's trying to get supporters from their side. Yeah. And so that hurts them. And Mike Dermatt is essentially doing the same thing, right? If he's going around the country saying, "I'm a Mises Caucus guy and I'm running for president," but he's not the official endorsed nominee of the caucus, then he's doing the same thing Josh is. And yet they had some kind of a deal with him, but didn't have some kind of a deal with Josh. As you pointed out, it's entirely because there's personal stuff between them and Josh. But then, so obviously I posed the question, number one, would Rechtenwald drop out and endorse Mike Dermatt if he had a higher percentage after the first few rounds? I don't know if because I never heard that was on the table. I'm just simply saying they swaggered in there with a certain sense of entitlement, and they clearly believed they had it wrapped up. They thought they had the votes, but I did hear from some people that they thought there would be some close voting, but they obviously felt like ultimately Rechtenwald had enough support either to win outright, or he had enough support to at least win the first few rounds. And then everyone would just sort of kind of fall in line behind him. Yeah. I don't know why you would assume that so well. I especially don't know why you would assume you'd get support from a fucking cop who shouldn't have been allowed in the room. He should have been physically removed. And I don't mean in the Hoppe sense. I mean, I beat the shit out of him and drag him into the street. That's what I literally mean. YouTube censors, whatever. Hurt him, physically damage Mike Dermatt and take him outside. That's what should have happened. Yeah, he's a fucking cop.
I can tell you're really emotional about this because your sound when you yell into the microphone was just freaking.
He's a fucking cop. Like, it's not debatable. He's a fucking cop. Like, why? I don't care. And I said, and remember, I did this in my recap. I said the same thing about Michael Rechtenwald. Michael Rechtenwald was a fucking Marxist commie professor like 2 weeks ago. So I just don't want to fucking hear it. If that's your candidate, y'all are gay and retarded. If your candidate was a cop, you're gay and retarded. And the other dude's
If your candidate
candidate literally is gay and retarded. So Jesus Christ. So
how many
it
comes in
shouldn't,
threes, folks?
yeah, and so it shouldn't be lost on any of us that all this drama and the alleged backstabbing and who was and wasn't going to drop out and support others and all that, at the end of the day, like, I don't really know Josh Smith that well, and I don't think that he would be a good candidate either for a variety of reasons, but I do think that he's genuine. I do think that he actually knows shit and is a genuine, like, culturally right-wing, politically libertarian person. I do believe that. And if my options were Josh, who I don't want to be the candidate, but I do believe he is genuinely a principled libertarian, but culturally right of center, and that's super important. Same thing as what Reed Cooley said. This needs to be a right-wing organization or fuck off. And he fucked off because they weren't.
Right.
So if I had to choose between an imperfect candidate, but I know that they're a genuine right libertarian, and a guy who was a Marxist professor until they made him choose his pronouns, and a fucking cop and a child sexual predator, I don't know, guys. If it were me, I'd probably just choose Josh. I don't know. But I didn't have a dog in the race, so I'm not here to say anything. I'm just saying, of those choices, I probably would have just chose Josh myself. But you know what? He didn't have anywhere near the support those other three had. So shame on shame on the delegation. Shame on the delegates, shame on the voters who put them in those positions to nominate and support Marxist professors, cops, and predators and groomers over an imperfect candidate that actually represents them. So
a couple of things. That whole thing of having the big personalities there to support Rechtenwald. You know, Dave Smith probably being the biggest one. And that wasn't enough to put him over the hump. Clint Russell was running, who hosts the Liberty Lockdown podcast. He was running as the VP or whatever, and he didn't get it. And he has a pretty decent following, as far as I know. But that didn't translate to getting the necessary votes to win. So that was another thing that I was thinking about before we were doing this, is that's like another strong argument for, just because you have a huge following on Twitter, that's not going to necessarily mean that's going to do anything for you in the
for sure
real world.
For sure.
You know? I mean, if every single, because hypothetically, if every single person was going, oh, Dave Smith supports Michael Rechtenwald, well, shit, I'm going to vote for Michael Rechtenwald. If all near 500,000 of his followers went into libertarian, like this registers as libertarian, and went to the party and then vote for Rechtenwald, easy landslide, it's over. But that didn't happen, because not every single person that follows Dave Smith likes him or is a libertarian, you know, all that stuff for whatever reason. So, I mean, that's just, I don't know. But yeah. So, and then another thing that I just want to quickly mention is that the Mises Caucus had that power, and now it's pretty much out of their grasp. Like, the power that they had is pretty much, I mean, yeah, Angela McCarro's still the chair, and most of the people in the LNC are their people, I guess, the people they endorse.
Yes, that's the spin. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, Dave Smith was basically saying, I mean, I don't know, guys, I think this whole thing failed. And like Reed Cooley was saying, and I heard Pete Quinones say, I don't know, other people were saying, but those are the two that I saw or heard. Is that
so?
If it's you have to have a right-wing organization, or it's going to become de-wokified, because great, okay, it was a left libertarian party, and then the Mises Caucus brought a right-wing, slant or whatever. Now it's back to being bullshit. I mean, it was always bullshit, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like,
so
you have to hold that power. Once you have that power, what are you going to do with it? Well, apparently nothing.
Without Dave Smith's support, and again, his statement's bullshit, you're either in or you're out. He's out. So without Dave's, because it's not just him physically being there to support, it was the hope of him running in the future. Everyone just assumed Dave Smith was going to run for president.
He mentioned that too, that he felt like he basically said he wasn't going to run. That whole rug was swept under everybody. Yeah.
Yes. So going into the next cycle, because this cycle is still technically live because we haven't had a presidential election yet, but now that we're looking ahead to the next cycle and conventions and all that, the next go round, they're going, the spin doctors are going to say, yeah, but we got Angela reelected as chair, and so we're still in control of the.
I mean, it was close.
So first of all, anyone who tries to paint this as anything other than a monumental defeat for the Mises Caucus is just lying. It's a monumental defeat. Okay, great. Angela got reelected. It's a monumental defeat. Again, second thing is that having someone like an Angela or any of the other ones in there is only good in so much as, again, the hope of Dave Smith just swooping in to carry the mantle. Without that hope there, those people will not last. They will not survive. And then the third thing is that, again, all you can do now is just kind of reflect on what has happened, say, what could we have done differently, and what will we do differently next time? They're technical. So when I say the Mises Caucus is dead, they're dying a slow death now. Like, they just suffered a mortal wound. This election, they just got stabbed in the gut and they're bleeding out.
Chase Oliver's sucking them off.
Well, Jesus. But anyway, they're not dead today, but they've suffered a mortal wound. They are bleeding out. They're going to die. Do they now, having seen what occurred, having heard from people like Reed, who said this is exactly what's going to happen if you don't do this right now, and them telling him point blank, no, we're not going to do that, and then him leaving. And by the way, that's not a knock on Reed. That's not him running away. He said, look, my support is contingent on these policies. They said no, and he left. That's
right. Yeah.
That's
talk about
just
principle.
That's how association works. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Will they now do it? That's another interesting question. So the interesting poll is, who's the worst candidate, Hornberger 2020 or Rechtenwald 2024?
Yeah.
And another just interesting rhetorical question is that whatever Reed Cooley may have suggested for official platform positions, in order to explicitly alienate. Look, if you lose a third of your membership, so fucking be it. You got to bleed out all the lefty scum and then start to build. You can't build today because you have cancer. You got to burn the cancer out first and then get back to building your base.
Right.
Will they do it now where they didn't before? Now, keep in mind, you could easily make the argument that it's too late now. They've suffered the wound. They're bleeding out.
Late.
Yeah, he said it. I gotta make that button. But anyway, people keep on telling me. But is it too late now? You could argue that it is. You could easily argue it is too late now. It doesn't matter if they go hard right culturally, because it's done. They've lost the war. They're bleeding out. They're gonna die. You could also make the argument that it's better late than never, that even if they're going to go down in flames, at least do what should have been done. What's that phrase? The best time to have done something was then. The next best time is now.
Right.
So are those people, are the Mises Caucus people and the party chairs and positions and delegates that they've elected, are they going to have a powwow after all this convention shit is over and Chase crashes and burns and the LP only goes from getting 3% to only getting like 0.8% with him? When that inevitably happens, will they then explicitly work to root out him and all of his followers? Or will they continue on the path they're on? In either event, I think in 4 years, it's just done. It's just a new regime comes in, all of them are out.
If anything,
it's over.
If anything, it's rejuvenated the people who are anti-Mises.
And they
Are you
always
freaking-
knew that was going to
Yeah.
happen. They knew that
Yeah.
the fight was never because that's what I was saying on the front end of this is that
Right.
if your only goal was to just who has the keys to the shitty 84 Ford Tempo that is the Libertarian Party, like, okay, even in a scenario where you succeed in that, you are just now going to be locked in an eternal struggle to maintain party leadership because there's nothing else for you to do. You're not actually going to win elections. So the only thing you can do is just have a forever war over the party.
Yeah.
Or if by some and again, they're never going to win elections, but if by some crazy chance they basically lost half of their membership overnight, but it was all the left wingers and it was a hardcore culturally right-wing organization. It's just GOP2 Electric Boogaloo. But for realsies, like basically they're not even a libertarian party. They're a conservative party because the GOP's not. If they actually did that, but that resulted in them losing half of their membership. And it's like, okay, now that we've bled all that blood away, it's time to start rebuilding. In a scenario where they had done that from the get-go and then started to rebuild again, if they had then from that point forward started trying to use what resources they had to target specific elections in counties, in states, in cities, all around the country where they could just pick your battles, throw everything you have into them. And by the way, pick fewer battles and spend more resources on fewer battles, quality over quantity. Not just for the chance of succeeding, but you want to take credit. At the end of the day, politics is a zero-sum game. So you want to be the winner, and you also want to take credit for winning. So if the LP could, again, like I just used the Tennessee governor thing as an example. If Glenn Jacobs ends up being the next governor of Tennessee and he wins by like 1%, and the Libertarian Party had spent their entire budget that they would have spent on their next convention on Glenn Jacobs, and you could say for absolutely without a doubt they helped him get 3% more of the vote, and then he wins by 1. They could actually say, we did that. Like, listen, hey, mainstream media, he won because of us. And so we have a seat at the table now because now other people need to know, hey, you want to win your airtight race? Come talk to us. Or if you're going to shit on us, we'll go support your opponent out of spite. That would at least be something they could do. But they would only be able to do that, even just that small thing. They would still never be able to do it as long as the lefties are in the party, because the lefties would all be crying, yeah, you're supporting Republicans. That's against, you should resign. We only support libertarians.
Yeah, just become a Mises PAC.
So, well, I mean, there is a Mises Caucus GOP that is a thing that exists, but albeit I don't think they're particularly big. Yeah, but it does exist. So, yeah, is this where I renew my LP membership? Yes, it is. So you just go to patreon.com/ whatever Shane says. You type in 999,999.99.
Alan Mosley TV. Patreon.com/
it's just Alan Mosley on Patreon.
Oh, okay.
You put in your Sears card, and
Sears card.
You just see what happens. Yeah.
Talk about free agents.
Yeah. So
well,
anyway,
thanks, JC, for that. I really appreciate that.
I don't have any more insights. Everything I really wanted to say was already last Wednesday. I feel like I've maybe added a little bit more to the table tonight from having known some of the people, having been there really early on. I was never involved. I've never been a member of the Libertarian
Party. You have no right to complain, Alan. You weren't involved.
Well, the reason I say that is that because, again, I mean, I just hate to always be right, and I hate to be such a braggart, but I know some people who I like. They're good people. I like them. They're my friends, but they were people, at least early on, who were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do this thing. We're gonna take back the party. And they joined and they were signing up members, and they had their little referral links. I never fell for that shit, and I was right and they were wrong. So, and I know that some of those people have done their mea culpa, so I'm not calling anybody out in particular. It's just to say that to me, it was pretty clear from the get-go it was always going to fail. And And I definitely think, like, even after 2020, with the whole Hornberger fiasco, to me, it was crystal clear at that point it was a failure. That it still took getting to 24 and all the drama and then another loss for people to give up. It's actually, I'll be honest, obviously I don't know everything. To me, that's super surprising. I'm super surprised that people were still this invested in it 4 years later, when it was very clear to me 2020 was a massive failure, and why they stuck it out for another round is beyond me. But now this is an even bigger failure. Like Joe Jorgensen was a failure. This is a way bigger failure than that. So it's just, you just can't come back from it. It's one of those deals. It's like, like it's like the random celebrity that tweets the N-word, and then says, oops, wrong chat. Like you don't just come back from it. It's over. You're done. So they're done. It's over. You don't come back from Chase Oliver.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, what would they be doing in 2028? Because, in 2 years, you do the whole chair election. It's like, oh, great. Inside baseball. Wow.
The people who got Chase Oliver elected are going to fight tooth and nail to replace Angela, and they'll win if Angela doesn't have. It doesn't matter if she has Dave Smith's support, because that's meaningless. It's not just him.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much been proven that.
Well, it's not just Dave Smith going on a podcast and saying, I support Angela. That doesn't matter. What mattered was the hope of him physically being involved in the room, on the stage, in the nominating process as a candidate. When that was removed, it was the iceberg and the Titanic. They hit the iceberg. They were taking on water from that moment forward. So without their just general delegate population holding out hope that better times are ahead, like this is it, this is the best we could do, Angela won't survive the next go round. And that's not an indictment on Angela, by the way.
And you know what? I think at the end of the day, this was probably the best thing for the Libertarian Party, because now they can have their social club again. They can go in, fuck each other in the ass and in tents or whatever. Hey, we're the Libertarian Party. We can do whatever we want. All your freedoms all the time. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to have sex with this. I'm a 55-year-old, and the age of consent should be lower. So like, that's what they would. And Chase Oliver, the perfect encapsulation of a lot of people. When they think of libertarian, they think, yeah, Chase Oliver, he's gay. He went to the BLM stuff, and he was wearing that, wearing masks, and he got vaccinated and be like, oh yeah, I vaccinate. Yeah. But hey, if a business doesn't want you to go in, and if they want you to wear a mask, that's their right. The business has every right to say that to you. Hey, asshole. The businesses were working with the government. They're like this. Like, are you retarded? The corporations can do whatever they want. I don't want the government taking control of my life, but the corporation, oh, fuck me in the ass, please. Let's go. That's what that's what he would think.
Every major corporation was working as a governmentality to do the government's bidding, and over half of small businesses failed in that year and a half, 16-month stretch. People have forgotten that statistic. Half of every registered small business in America went under during that period of time. And you've got Chase Oliver over there talking about how, well, it was their right to get smothered by Walmart. I don't know what he's trying to argue. He's just a dumb bitch. But and now he's got a cop. So typical for the dumb bitches. The cops are up there.
I wanted to show you a couple of clips from you and I. Well, I'm kidding around, obviously, but the Libertarian Party's president and vice presidential candidate. So brace yourselves, and I don't mean that in a sexual way. I mean, especially from this guy. Oh boy. Okay, so this was I don't know if this was like the day of or the day after. But I don't know. This is just great. So.
This comes from Reed Coverdale, and this is the last time he'll ever appear in any way, shape, or form on my content. He says, I don't care that Chase Oliver is gay. I won't vote for him because he's a faggot. When I saw this comment earlier today, I about lost my shit, because that's the attack that people in the Libertarian Party are going to be giving. People that are supposed to be liberty lovers, people that are supposed to be acknowledging that we leave people alone and let people live their life. Get the F out of the party, Reed. That's my response. But I'm also not a presidential candidate and vice presidential candidate. Can you respond to the people that are making this about your sexuality as you're running for president? Because quite honestly, I believe that it doesn't deserve any more breath, but I do want to give you the opportunity to address it.
Greg, I don't agree that we should be giving Chase an opportunity to respond to that. I think it's bullshit. Okay. I think that you and I know each other well enough by now to know that I'm not going to call something bullshit unless I really mean it. I'm not calling Reed Coverdale an asshole because I've got a problem with what he said. I'm calling Reed Coverdale an asshole because he's not a libertarian. The idea that he should use language like that in public suggests to me that he's got bad taste. The idea that he should use a concept like that in public suggests to me that he's not a libertarian. And to be honest with you, you hit that nail on the head. He should get the hell out of the party. And I'm not going to let Chase answer that question. Well, I'm not going to let you ask me a question about my sexuality. If someone out there has a problem with me being straight, they're going to have to say it to my face.
Well, I do want to say this, though.
It doesn't deserve your response.
You're right. It's a tactless thing. And frankly, for every one person like that who leaves this party, we're going to recruit 10 more or 15 more or 20 more because people want to.
I mean, talk about delusion. For every one person we won't get, we're going to recruit 10 more. And also the fact that that cop guy, Mike, is the one. No, I'll handle this, gay man.
He's trying to wear the pants in the relationship.
Let's just flip it around. Let me be the president. You be the vice.
Yeah, he's the top.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But also, he's a fucking cop, so I don't care. It doesn't matter. Mike Turmat is going to hell. Like that's funny enough. So Chase, but for different reasons, for different reasons. But it's pretty much indisputable. They're both going to hell. I feel like it's pretty clear on that. So it's just mind blowing to me that I mean, and even Chase, like, as if we can't already tell that Chase is just total human debris. But on top of everything else, he also should be sitting there saying, "Ugh, get away from me! You're a fucking cop." He should be saying that too.
No, he was sitting right next to him. He was sitting right next to him, arm in arm. And speaking of Chase Oliver, here's something where he actually did respond to a question where he didn't have. But I think this is before all that stuff. So this is when he was on with Austin Peterson.
Why do you think that the drag queens want to read to children?
Because I think that they are performance artists and they want to be able to have different levels of performance art. It's the same reason as why do the Wiggles sing to children? Because they want to have a marketplace to kids.
Chase,
they want to be able to. They want to be able to.
The Wiggles is made for children. It's obviously family friendly material. Drag queens are not what you call family friendly kind of entertainment.
Okay, but a man in a dress is what drag is, right? Let's just be real. A man in a dress or a woman in a suit is what drag is. Mm-hmm. That is not inherently sexual. There is inherently sexual drag. And you're not going to convince me. I mean, I'm not going to defend otherwise. There absolutely is. But there's also the ability to perform as a man in a wig without being sexual. And that is what this is. And I guarantee you, if you act like I said, I went for myself because I was like, why are there people protesting this thing? I want to see what this drag queen story time is myself. And I want to see what it is. And nothing sexual was going on. And I think that is the truth for 99% of this. And I think
would you take your kids to a drag queen story hour? Or would you drop them off at a drag queen story hour? And
I don't think that's what happens. Most of the time the parents are right there with the kids. But
I'm asking you, would you drop your
the parents are there with their kids, so it's totally fine. You know, because he's also someone who believes that a parent should have the say on whether a son or daughter should have, like, the son should have their dick cut off, or girl can have their breast cut off. And I'm the parent, it's fine.
Yeah.
They're 5, like they're 5 or 6 years old, you know?
Well, Chase is fine with that. He's made that explicitly clear.
Right.
So, I mean, Chase should be drug out in the street and shot. That's what that's not a joke, by the way. Twitter.
Yeah, I know.
He should be killed because he is a predator. He's a groomer. There's nothing else to say. He is a sexual predator. Every gay activist is a pedophile. And he is a groomer, and Mike Termott's a cop. So they're, both used to fucking people. And it doesn't even matter. Like, other policy positions don't even matter. I mean, that's the thing, because we talked about that earlier this week about the whole Rothbard like one deviation thing. Is a lot of people like to bring that up. A lot of people who don't actually read Rothbard, by the way, like to bring up, like, oh, Rothbard, he was willing to have coalitions with anybody. Look at all these different people he worked with. And oh, Rothbard, he didn't want to make the perfect the enemy of the good. He always said that libertarians should get to have one deviation from libertarianism on, one topic, one whatever, but they're still a good libertarian. It's like, okay. So my question then is, does being for chemical castration of children count as one deviation, or does that count as 1.1 and so it doesn't count? Is that a bridge too far? At the end, that's it. That's the only question that any delegate or anyone else has to be asked is chemical castration of children a one acceptable deviation from an otherwise just liberty-loving chap here in the party, or is that too much? So we should just have them killed and move on with a different candidate. And every single person who says, "Oh, that's just one simple disagreement," but he's really anti-war, you guys. And that's the other thing that gets me too, by the way. The other end of the spectrum is it's like, well, but he's really anti-war. It's like, oh my God. No one should have been allowed to walk into the convention if they weren't fucking anti-war. That's like saying, oh, well, he's an American citizen. Well, you have to be an American citizen to run. So you have to be anti-war to run. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. They fucking elected a groomer and a cop. So maybe the next person that's going to get elected is going to be somebody who says, like, well, look, guys, Iraq was wrong, but we had to go into Afghanistan to get bin Laden. That's what it's coming, right? I mean, if you can go with groomers and cops, that'll be the next domino to fall. They'll just get somebody who's like, well, I don't like the empire, but I gotta support the troops, so I won't cut no funding for Guantanamo Bay. And it's like, Jesus Christ. So yes, he's anti-war. He does enough to at least walk through the front doors, but no, he is a child sexual predator. So no.
So this is from Michael Malice, and he screenshotted someone's tweet, Rob Henderson, the Rob Henderson rule, Libertan edition. And I don't know if you didn't follow Michael Malice, especially during this time when after Chase and Mike Dermack got the nomination, whatever, he was just going on to town. It was some great stuff, great entertainment during those few hours of him just shitting on those guys. And he calls Mike Dermack like Officer Dipshit. So there you go.
Yeah.
And so he says, Rob Henderson, and this is basically, you can almost kind of think this is libertarianism 101. Okay, so he says, step 1, it's not really happening. Step 2, yeah, it's happening, but it's not a big deal. And this is like Chase Oliver talking about the drag queen story hour. It's not big. Step 3, it's a good thing, actually. Step 4, people freaking out about it are the real problem. And so you go down here and you look at this tweet. And so here's some of Chase Oliver's tweets that he's kind of talking about this. So step 1, no one is actually doing this. Good on you for standing up for something that doesn't happen. You know what does happen? Trans and non-binary young people are mercilessly bullied and their parents painted as abusers. That actually happens, and we should speak out against it. Step 2, how many trans non-binary kids do you think are in the U.S.? How many are on puberty blockers? Do you think this is a widespread thing being pushed on our kids? Step 3. Why doesn't the New York Post and Fox News show us stories about the many thousands of trans and non-binary youth who feel better after being able to socially transition in schools? Because it would ruin the narrative that every public school teacher is forcing your kids to be trans. Step 4. This is shameful. I am old enough to remember when gay rights were used as a wedge issue. Now the right has moved on to targeting trans and non-binary people. It's sad and happening in states across the country. That's like the perfect summation of that whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the timeline wasn't 100% because like step 2 and
Yeah.
step 3 weren't necessarily, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of show that to people who are watching. They're like, this is, and there's people out there who are like, I don't see what the problem is. That's fine.
Yeah.
And again, like I'm saying, they can have the social club. They can continue, like Donald Trump said, his biggest knock, the biggest thing he said during that whole speech he did at the Libertarian Party convention. You'll get your 3%. Continue getting your 3%. Support me. I'm your best chance of winning. I mean, yeah, great. He's not a libertarian. Okay, fine. But hey, I mean, I could possibly free Ross Ulbricht. I could get Julian Assange out. I mean, there's a possibility of me doing it, and there's a 0 chance of that happening with Chase Oliver and Mike Dumet because there's no way they're going to win. So,
well, it's true, but now I will say, to be clear though, that everything Trump said was bullshit too. So I'm
just saying as like a hypothetical.
Yeah, but just to be absolutely clear on the whole 3% comment, they're not winners if they vote for Trump and Trump wins. Trump is a winner if they vote for Trump and Trump wins. Only the person who's on the ticket that's getting voted for, that's the only person who wins. Politics is a zero-sum game. The Libertarian Party doesn't transform from being losers to winners, even if they had nominated Trump. Even if that had been legal.
He only got 6 votes. Ooh.
It wouldn't have been anyway, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he'd been nominated, and it doesn't matter if he'd been nominated and then they vote for him and then he wins the election. It still wouldn't matter. The Libertarian Party doesn't win. Trump wins. The Libertarian Party's not on the ticket. Trump is on the ticket. It's just the same thing as the GOP doesn't win. Trump wins. Now the GOP would win because he's just going to nominate. He's just going to appoint a bunch of swamp monsters because he hasn't learned anything and doesn't give a fuck to try. But that being neither here nor there, and the whole Ross Ulbricht thing, like, of course, I ran that poll that I ran, is that, look, if you had to choose between getting to have a 5-minute recorded message about being a real libertarian versus voting for Trump and Trump pardons Ross, which one would you choose? The objectively correct answer is vote for Trump and he pardons Ross. Now, to be fair, in my hypothetical, he does it. And I said it was guaranteed in my hypothetical.
Right.
It's obviously not guaranteed in the real world. I won't be surprised at all if Trump wins this. In fact, since we're live still, I'm gonna go down on this. I'm gonna go down on the record on this one. My prediction is that Trump wins the race, does not free Ross Ulbricht, and he either makes no comment on it at all, or he does make a comment on it when pressed, and he says, no, I said I would free Ross if the Libertarians voted for me, but they didn't. That's what he'll say, he'll say that, well, but they ran a candidate and they didn't vote for me, and therefore, it was transactional, and I offered a transaction and they turned it down. It's the art of the deal. I offered them a deal and they said no, so they're losers and I'm a winner. I'm going on record right now. Trump will renege on his promise, because there's no such thing as a promise. There's no such thing as political promises. They don't exist. There's nothing in writing. It's not enforceable, because that's the other thing too. He has all the power. The LP has no power. The only power they could allegedly have is to help him win the election. A, I don't really believe that. And B, because even if there are a bunch of right of center libertarians that do vote Trump because of the trial stuff or because of Ross, even if there are some that do it, even if there's a lot that do it, Trump could always just say, well, you guys didn't vote for me. And there will be libertarians that'll say, but, oh, no, Mr. President, sir, I voted for you because I wanted you to free Ross. And he'll say, oh, no, the libertarians didn't vote for me. He'll point to Chase. He'll say, look at they ran some kid and they voted for him. They didn't vote for me. So he'll just use, because that's a very Trump thing to do. He'll just move the goalpost. He'll just use that as an excuse to then not do the thing he promised to do. Or he won't address it at all, but either way, he doesn't do it. So I am happy to go on the record that he doesn't. So clearly I'm not pro-Trump. Now, in the scenario of Trump might pardon Ross versus Chase won't do anything because he won't win the election, the answer is still Trump may be pardoning Ross. But I'm just saying that it's perfectly plausible that there is no good answer. I mean, because that's sort of a metaphor for just politics in general, right? The real answer is that there's no, the only way to win is to not play. There's no good answer. None of the options were a good option. The questions are, the good polls are always which is the least worst option. That's always really the question. Even people who love to cite Thomas Sowell would say the same thing. There's no solutions. There's only trade-offs. Mm-hmm. So the trade-off is you're giving your vote to Trump. You're holding your nose and voting for him because there's some percent chance that he at least knows who Ross Ulbricht is. Like, he at least knows who he is and has at least spoken on his behalf. Maybe he pardons him. That's better than Biden will do. Biden is obviously not going to pardon Ross Ulbricht. And no other candidate that has a chance to win is going to pardon Ross Ulbricht. So if that's important to you, and I would say that's something that's good to be important, then you should vote for Trump. So I don't have any problem with saying that's the least worst option, but I also have no problem in saying I have no expectation of a good outcome. So there you go. It is what it is.
So basically what we're saying, and especially what you're saying, is that the Libertarian Party should just die and try and
literally, not metaphorically.
Just focus on good, actual good, I guess, elections that have a good chance of winning. And get, maybe they should have Dan McKnight from Defend the Guard. Have him talk at the convention.
Well, hell, they won't even support Defend the Guard. So fuck it,
And like you're saying, go support Glenn Jacobs. Go support, anyone. Like, there was a race in Texas. I don't exactly remember. I think it was like the El Paso down to like San Antonio or something like that. That whole district, whatever. I can't remember where it was. Mm-hmm. It was Brandon Herrera and some incumbent or whatever. And Brandon Herrera, I think it was like the first time he's run. He's a YouTuber, like a popular YouTuber, and he lost by, I think, even less than 1%, or whatever. Imagine if the Mises Caucus or the Libertarian Party went and said, "Hey, go support Brandon Herrera instead of the incumbent asshole. Go support that guy." He could have gotten, I don't know, maybe an extra 1.5%, 2%. That could have gotten him over the top. But no, he's an R.
It's hard for a lot of people to understand the concept of winning a race doesn't necessarily mean running a candidate. Winning a race could mean injecting yourself into a race with the candidates already decided, and basically saying, we can, hey, this is a close race. We can come in and we can push one of you over the top. But
that's MAGA.
But the one we're going to do that for is going to be the one that then, it gives us a seat at the table, essentially says, like, look, you're going to, when elected, here's some key policy things that we want your support on. Well, like, take, for instance, here's a perfect example. I know we're running late here, but take Corey DeAngelis as a perfect example. So Corey DeAngelis, who's really the spearhead of the school choice movement. He has had an absolute ton of success. I mean, school choice is just absolutely blowing up. And I know, by the way, that there's libertarians that, school choice, it's not a one sentence bill abolishing the Department of Education. Therefore, I'm against Corey DeAngelis and school choice. It's like,
well, there's also another reason for being there's also another reason to be anti-school choice. It's that a lot of the white schools will be overrun by not white people because now they can go to whatever school they want. If they get the money, they can go to that one really good white school and fuck that whole thing up. But anyway.
Yeah, but well, I mean, they can certainly attempt to, but in the places where those things happen was like with the busing scandal in decades prior, where they were picking up the heroic and brave diverse individuals from one area and busing them to another.
Yeah.
So actually, in a true school choice situation, what you would have way more often than not is you would basically have people staking claims to certain districts, certain schools.
Yeah, you would hope so.
And by the way, Corey DeAngelis himself would love to abolish the Department of Education and have education be entirely privatized. What he's trying to do is that this is a stepping stone between here and there.
No, we have to jump all of those steps and get right to the end.
So I'm using him as an example of this is somebody who's saying, like, look, I'm not running for office. I'm not nominating people for office, and they're certainly not running as libertarians. That's for sure, because they want to win elections. What he's doing is he's saying, look, I want to highlight the candidates that are on record as being unequivocally for this policy. And I also want to highlight the candidates who are against it, particularly the ones who are in bed with the teachers unions. And I want to sway these elections to our side. And he's had tremendous success doing it. And he's had tremendous success doing it. And that's in principle, it may be libertarian-ish, but in literal political terms, there's nothing libertarian about it. He's just working the political system predominantly through Republican candidates, though there have been some Democratic candidates. There have been some Democratic candidates that were pro-school choice, and they were running against their people in their own party. And just like there's been Republican candidates who were against school choice. So it's not purely partisan. And he's had a lot of success. So the Libertarian Party could theoretically interject itself and say, well, look, here's a handful of key issues, policy positions that we're championing this term. Like, say, for instance, defend the guard. And so we're going to get with Dan McKnight and the guy and Diego Rivera and the guys over there. And we're going to listen to them say, hey guys, what are the races that are going to help move the needle the most? Where are places where there's an honest to God pro defend the guard person that has a serious chance to win the race against someone who's not? And then where are the races where are the people who are vulnerable? And let's throw our weight there, just like Corey does with school choice. Let's throw our weight against the vulnerable ones and highlight the ones who are bad on it or who backstab. And let's highlight the ones who are good on it. Because you got to do both, right? You can't just yell at the people who are bad. You also have to demonstrate, hey, we give pats on the back and we offer support to the ones who are good. That's why you should side with us, because we'll help you. And then when those guys say, hey, look, here's some key races we feel like we could move in our favor, then they go and support. So because there's the election angle and then there's the actual legislative angle. The election angle is something the LP could help with, is say, well, we're going to throw our weight behind candidates running for office who will support our policies. And then you have the legislative angle, which is now we're going to phone bank and call and support the candidates and make sure they remember, hey, this is a policy we're very passionate about. Make sure you do this. See, Corey DeAngelis does that. He's always on it from a legislative angle. But when election season comes around, he does then make sure to highlight the pros and the cons against each other and obviously support the ones who are pro. And Corey DeAngelis himself is not a billionaire. He's not Elon Musk, and he's sure as shit not running with a capital L next to it. He's not running for anything, but he's moving the needle. So it can be done. It can. I work for the 10th Amendment Center. We have stuff up on the website literally every single week of look at this state. Look at this. This bill's going to the governor's desk. This state just passed this bill that moved the needle a few ticks our direction. It does happen. You don't hear about it all the time, but it does happen. But as sure as shit doesn't happen with taking edibles at a convention and then nominating groomers and then arguing over who has the account access to Twitter. That never did anything. I feel like this is crystal clear. I don't feel like anything we're saying here to end tonight is controversial in any sense. It's only controversial to people who, at the end of the day, they're just in it for the game. That was kind of what I was getting at about the people who are just perpetually running versus the people who are trying to win. They're really just in it for the game. I hate those people. I hate those people more than anything. I hate those people in all facets of life. You got to win. We have to win. Life has winners and losers, and you want to win. And it's not just politics; it's everything. You want to be a winner. You want to win, especially when it comes to your life, comes to your family, it comes to your kids' lives. You got to win. You got to win for them. You got to be a winner. You want to be on the winning team. You got to win. And I'm not necessarily or even particularly talking about politics. Don't just be in it for the game. Don't say, "Oh, well, it was a fun race. We did our best. Sorry, Timmy, you get to get the shit beat out of you at school next week." No, fuck that. Win. But I hate people who are just in it to be on stage. Fuck those people. Terrible.
Yeah, the Mises Caucus won a couple years ago, and now they couldn't do anything with it, and here we are. Here they are. And then speaking of Corey DeAngelis, he wasn't at the Libertarian Party National Convention.
Of course not.
You know what he was doing that weekend? He was over in Texas with the GOP. Talking to those people. I think it was a convention in Texas specifically about the GOP. He was over there talking to those people.
That's because
like you're saying, he knows he can win.
Yeah, that's because in Texas right now, school choice is a really hot button topic because you have a current sitting governor in Greg Abbott who is pro school choice, who is trying to call special sessions to get school choice legislation passed. And they are being fought tooth and nail by Democrats in Texas because there are a lot of them. Texas is turning purple before our eyes. But also there's a lot of big government Republicans in Texas that are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from the teachers unions, and so they're against school choice. Big shocker, they get paid by the teachers unions and then they're against school choice. I can't believe it.
Why can't the LP help out even a little bit? Where are they at? Sitting on their ass,
Well, for one, like I had said before, do I wish that they would help out? Sure. Can they help out? I don't think they actually can. They need to make a lot better choices and move things in a lot more right-leaning and positive direction, so that they can then in the future lend some help where help is needed. But you're completely right. So Corey DeAngelis is in essentially a battleground state for his particular policy that he is championing, working with the governor in that state to fight against the entrenched special interest. That's where he was. Abso-freaking-lutely. That's where LP people could have been 6 months from now. And now, sadly, they won't be because they can't even fix their own house. So, no, they're not going to be helping anybody. Like I said, the Titanic hit the iceberg. They're bleeding out now. It's over. They're taking on water. So it doesn't matter now.
All right. So we'll end the show with because we had mentioned it. So I just want to end it with this. I know, like I said, I know we've been going long, but we both had a lot to say. You especially had a lot to say, so I'm glad. So Reed Cooley, as you mentioned, talked about the LNC. So here's his tweet that you were talking about, and I retweeted. So he said, in February of 2023, I warned the LNC that they'd get Chase Oliver as their nominee unless they embraced explicitly right-wing messaging designed to alienate him and his base forever. I mean, right there, it's like clear as day. You have to be explicitly right wing because the left wing do that great. Once something's left wing, it's pretty much over. Like you have a really hard time getting that back.
Yeah, there's no taking back. There's no such thing.
Yeah, like it's virtually impossible, or just about. After seeing the LNC board's refusal to do what must be done, I left the party, resigning my position as communications director and leaving it to face the consequences of its actions. Those consequences are now here. Had the party listened to me, at Wreck the Regime or at Joshua at Large, would be its nominee tonight. Either embrace the right or get overtaken by the left. It's that simple, and it always has been. And then he continues, I wish LP National the best and continue to hope for a Libertarian Party that will one day become as serious and focused as America needs it to be. We'll keep wishing. To my friends who are still here, recognize tonight as a painful lesson. There is no evading the role that the, quote, culture war, unquote, plays in advancing policy and capturing institutions. And that's really the culture war in a nutshell too. They capture all this stuff and they grab a hold on it. So it's like if the Mises Caucus were to basically be that, once they grab a hold of the Libertarian Party, they should have grabbed it by the balls and kept it, but no, they let go. And now Chase Oliver is the nominee and he's with the freaking, officer dipshit. And there you go. And, say what you will about Michael Rectenwald and Joshua Smith, but if Rectenwald was a nominee, I don't think we'd be talking shit about the Libertarian Party as much as we were now,
Not as much, for sure. I mean, they would still be ineffective, and then their demise would be one more term down the road.
Right.
Their demise was inevitable the moment Reed walked out the door because they made the explicit decision to not cut the rod out. The moment that decision was made, their end was over.
Yeah, and also other people too leaving. I don't know. I think I've mentioned it before on here, but Pete Quinones leaving, being like, this is retarded, this is useless. Mark Claire doing a whole episode, taking questions from the Mises Caucus Facebook group, and basically like, oh, why you're doing this for the views? You're saying you hate the Mises Caucus because you want more listeners. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm probably losing viewers and listeners. And now Mark Claire is doing what he's doing and having a great life. Meanwhile, the Mises Caucus is, what do we do next? I don't know. Maybe we should get I don't know, who should we have as our nominee 2020? I don't know. Maybe Michael Heiss should run. Maybe, can you imagine if Michael Heiss ran for president? There you go. He should run.
Oh, he would be laughed out of the room at every turn because he's poison.
Screw it. Yeah, have him run.
I mean the same people who didn't want Josh Smith because they felt like he was too divisive and poisonous. Michael Heiss would be that turned up to 1 billion. So that wouldn't happen, and I don't think Heiss has ever wanted to be the face. I don't think he's ever wanted. But again, like we've already discussed, none of that matters because without the hope, even if it was always fake, without the hope of Dave Smith coming in, that particular camp
and Maj Touré apparently being the VP, like running for the VP.
Which that would have hurt them, by the way. Having Maj Touré as the VP would have been a bad thing, not a good thing. That would have hurt them.
Well, apparently that was the plan.
And even like you think about and like I said, I wasn't calling anyone out in particular who was there and then not and saying, haha, told you so. I'm not, I didn't do that. I'm just saying, I'm not saying told you so to any specific people. I'm just saying told you so to the room. Like I said this from the very beginning. I literally went to New Orleans and came home and like 2 weeks later was like, here's what's going to happen. And here's my opinions on everyone and everything.
You need to find that clip.
And I took a ton of fucking hate. Let's be fucking real. I have the best goddamn podcast in America. It's the best. I don't call it a libertarian podcast anymore, but it's awesome. It's definitely the best late night show in America. It has way better production. It's actually funny. By the way, of course, God knows libertarians don't have any sense of humor. My show's actually funny, so that's why they don't get it. It just, it's like their brains just turn off.
That's why I laugh when I watch your show. I laugh, so I must have a good sense of humor, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're not a libertarian. There you go.
Haven't been for a while.
Back when I was having Ron Paul on the show, all of those people were liking and sharing the content. What? And then
don't worship a politician. No, I'm just kidding.
But when I was saying this whole thing is bullshit, who cares about the party? I was like, guys, why do you guys care about what the LP does? We're not capital L libertarians.
You got to find that clip. You got to find that clip and share it and take a victory.
I took so much hate, all the unfollows and unsubscribes and all that stuff. I should have never branded. It's my fault. I'll do a Dave Smith. It was my fault. I should have never branded as libertarian from the get-go. I should have never done the gold standard. I should have just done It's Too Late from day one and never shoehorned myself into that community.
People start somewhere, I mean, but we started out like that too.
And I know people in that circle who don't like me. Strange to know that there's people out there that don't like me. I know that you're shaking now. You're literally shaking.
I think this is the last episode of the show.
Yeah, but there's people that don't like me, particularly in that camp, even though I've always been super hostile to their enemies. Like, I've never been pro them, but I've always been super hostile to the people they're against. I think I've been pretty clear that I'm anti-Chase Oliver at this point. I'm just not pro them. I'm definitely not pro the candidates that they've run, for sure.
Yeah.
I was hardcore anti-Jacob Hornberger. From the very get-go, I was strongly against Hornberger, and I also thought the whole thing in general was stupid, but I was definitely against him, and that put me on the blacklist with a lot of those people. And then what did they do to prove themselves right and me wrong? They run another dick shitter 4 years later and lose again. So boy, they sure showed me, didn't they? Jesus Christ. And like I said, I don't really know Josh Smith, like personally or anything. Yeah. And I don't think he's a good candidate. It's like I'm the LP of Harry Brown. I'm like, you guys had Harry Brown, which was just this stately and polished and well-spoken, but importantly, personally successful. He was privately and financially a successful person who then came into the LP, was like, well, I will be the standard bearer. Before there was a Dave Smith, it was a lot. Harry Brown, I'll be the standard bearer of the party. He died young. He wasn't young, but he died unexpectedly. Yeah. That's a shame. But even right after, of course, famously right after 9/11, he wrote the essay, When Will We Learn?
Oh, yeah.
Like Harry Brown was the guy. He was the man. And there has not been anyone like him ever since. And not even with the Mises Caucus. The Mises Caucus comes in and they want to take back the party. But somehow Harry Brown didn't come walking back in the door. And I mean that in the metaphorical sense, not in the little. Obviously, zombie Harry Brown didn't show back up.
And also supporting Jacob Hornberger, which, if I remember correctly, wasn't like
yes, he did. They had a personal thing. Yeah. But and I've already talked about that before. I don't need to rehash that. But just to say, in the metaphorical sense, even though you put this caucus together and you get all these who's who of the liberty movement, which also doesn't exist, by the way, there's no such thing. And then you put this caucus together, and then you run all these people for party positions, not political, but for party positions, and you get all these different board people, and then you get the chair. You've taken over the party. But Harry Brown never came walking through the door. And that's really the kicker. It's like that's more of those. I'll just leave that as just something to think about as we sign off. Is that I wonder why it is. I'm not even saying I have an answer. This is just a question for the audience to ponder. I wonder why it is, after all that time and effort and trying to brand yourself in the way they did and all the work to try to retake the party, why didn't the next Harry Brown show up? Why were you running Jacob Hornberger and Michael Rechtenwald to begin with? Now, obviously, we know they wanted Dave Smith and he didn't, but fuck Dave Smith. I don't want Dave Smith either. Fuck him. Why didn't the next Harry Brown? Because Dave Smith's not a politician. He's a fucking comedian who gets on Rogan. He's not a politician. Harry Brown, he was the guy. Harry Brown looks like a guy that if I just had like a plaque of all the presidents and he was on there, you just think he was fucking McKinley or some shit. You wouldn't even think nothing about it. He was that kind of guy who he was bulletproof. You couldn't hit him on anything. He knew everything. He read everything. He had all the best answers, long form, short form. He was getting TV appearances and stuff. But almost importantly above all that, he was personally successful. He was a privately wealthy individual who could then decide, I'm going to spend my time and money on this endeavor because I feel it's important. He was like a one-man Mises Caucus before the Mises Caucus and succeeded where they failed. Why didn't he come back in the metaphorical sense after the Mises Caucus rose up? That'll just be a question for everyone to think.
Yeah, so couple of things before we sign off.
Mm-hmm.
So Jacob Hornberger, Michael Rechtenwald,
mm-hmm.
They really like their 2-syllable, 3-syllable candidates. 2-syllable first name, 3-syllable last name.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave Smith doesn't count. That's why he didn't get it,
no.
or he didn't want to do it because
they want people with weird ass names. They could have never voted for Josh Smith because he's
Yeah.
just generic everyman. They have to
Yeah,
vote
right.
for Hornberger or Rechtenwald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then speaking of Dave, he's kind of in the big thing here in this episode. But regarding his part of the problem episode that he did, basically recapping the 2024 convention. And I think this really kind of just surmises the whole thing to me when I heard this. Was he was talking about how he could kind of barely go around the whole thing without people coming up to him and asking to take a picture and talk to him and all that stuff. And, you know, that's not surprising at all. And he was talking about how this one guy wanted to talk to him about immigration. I guess he wanted to have some kind of debate with him. But this guy was wearing a thong. He was just wearing an open like thong. And I don't know if he was wearing, I can't remember if he was wearing a shirt, but he was wearing a thong, like no pants or anything, just a thong. And then Dave said something along the lines of, "Look, I can't do this right now. I got to do whatever." And he just walked away. And he was just thinking, like, these are the people that I'm hanging around with. This freaking weirdo and a bunch of other weirdos in this whole thing. And there's this guy in a freaking thong trying to have a serious conversation with me. It's like, this is the whole thing that I'm dealing with. These fucking weirdos who are just, I mean, that's like probably bottom, not even the bottom barrel, but that's like surface level weird. I mean, if you want to get really weird, go to freaking Pork Fest. From the stories I've heard. Ugh. Those are the freaking weirdo libertarian anarchist people over there. If you want to be a part of that, be my guest. You go do it over there and get drone striked for all I care. So, yeah, I think that whole thing kind of just probably made Dave realize, oof, I think I made the bad decision on this one. But anyway, yeah, we've been going on for quite a while. We had a lot to say, so this is an extra bonus for all those who are watching and listening. I really appreciate you hanging on with us. But we had a lot to say. Alan was extremely passionate, especially about Mike. He loves Mike, so as we know. Alan,
don't even worry about the backstabbing part. The real he was still the third place candidate, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So he still had at least enough support just for himself, just people in the room thinking, I really want to vote for the cop. He's the best guy.
Yeah.
He had the third most. Jesus, man.
Yep. Anyway, Alan, where can they find It's Too Late with Alan Mosley?
Surprisingly, despite me each week saying people should be killed, and sometimes the N-word just as a treat, you can still find the show on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, X, whatever. Just go to Alan Mosley TV. It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. New episodes appear every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Absolute banger of an episode this past week. The Libertarian Party recap video clip, which is only like a couple minutes long.
It's good.
It's got a ton of views, as it should. Surprisingly, LP National has not retweeted it yet. I'm sure it's just a simple misunderstanding, and they'll share it soon. But it's gotten a lot of good reviews. In fact, I even want to read for you really quick.
Okay.
Talking about good reviews. We got a fantastic review from our friend Connor Freeman at the Libertarian Institute, who shared this week's show. And he said, quote, "If you're not watching It's Too Late, you're a fucking loser and I hate you."
Oh man, I'm gonna find that. Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty on the nose, but
you should have that on your banner. You should have that on like your banner on YouTube or something.
I actually told him I have a screenshot of it. I mean, not that he's taken it down. He hasn't. It's still up. But I took a screenshot of it and I told him I'm just going to run that as an ad.
Yeah.
The ad is just going to be tweet by Connor Freeman. If you're not watching It's Too Late, you're a fucking loser and I hate you. I'm just going to run that as an ad.
All right. Well, again, thanks so much, Alan, for coming on and having this really good, passionate conversation. So yeah, don't blame you, Dave. Do what you got to do. Don't listen to Alan. Listen to me. You're a good friend.
What do you mean? Don't listen to me? I said he needs to fucking get out of there. He was wasting his time.
I'm saying the same thing. Gotta pay attention.
I mean, I'm funnier though. So
Nah,
there's
yeah,
that.
that is true. That is true. That's why you have a late night show and I have a unproduced.
No, I'm funnier
whatever.
than Dave.
Oh,
I mean, I know I'm
oh,
funnier than you, but I'm also funnier
jeez.
than Dave. Yeah. So.
All right. Thanks, everyone.